Chris Lowe, I hope you're doing well. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa. Busy week.
Hey, Ryan. How are you guys?
Good. It's a busy week chasing all the coaching carousel, I guess it would be.
Yeah, that's this time of year. It's the latter part of November on into December. I guess it's what keeps us all busy until the bowl games, right?
No doubt. Biggest thoughts? I know you were one of the ones who broke this story this morning that he was going to Florida Atlantic. We're talking about Lane Kiffin. Your biggest thoughts about Lane Kiffin accepting the job there at FAU?
Yeah, and I think Lane was just ready to be head coach. I don't think it's really a lot more complicated than that. I know there'll be a lot of different storylines are out there about he and Nick Saban's relationship, yay or nay, and about whether he's stooping too low or whether he's taking a job that's a dead end job. I'm sure there'll be a lot of talk. I've already heard a lot of people saying that Lane was not very smart to be doing this. But listen, he's been in Alabama for 3 years. He's been a big part of their success. He's 41. He had 3 head coaching jobs, as Coach Saban has pointed out to me, and several other people. A lot of those jobs came before a lot of people become coordinators. He made some mistakes. Lane will be the first to tell you that he probably got in his own way at times. But I think right now, where he is in his life and his career, he was ready to go take a shot and be a head coach again. And the only way you prove that you're ready, Ryan, is to go do it. And I think the best way to do it is to go to a place like FAU that doesn't have all the resources that the Ohio States and Alabamas and Texas to do, and to go there and prove that you can win and prove that you can put the recruit. It's a great state to recruit to. Clearly, they haven't had a lot of success. So if he goes there and wins 6 or 7 the first year and then sort of improves it, I think he's going to get a shot at a Power 5 job. So I'm not surprised, and I understand why he's doing what he's doing, because he's ready to go prove to everybody, himself included, that he can be a head coach again and be more successful than he was in some of his last stints as a head coach.
But you can understand why the perception is there, that you turn down. I don't know what the money's going to be like, but it's going to be a lot less than he would have probably made at LSU, or even if there was an option. I don't know if there was, but to stay here at Alabama as an OC. I mean, it just, you can understand where the perception is that Lane Kiffin took a lot lesser job.
Well, if he was driven by money, and I think Lane's made a lot of money, in his life. He's made a lot there now. They make him $1.4 million. I think he's going to be paid around $1 million at FAU, so it's a little bit of a cut. But let's face it, when you're making $1 million and you're sort of weighing that against 1.4, or even if Alabama would have taken the 1.8, or LSU would have. See, I never was a big believer, Ryan, that he was going to go to LSU. I know Ed Ogeron would have loved to have had him. Those guys are very good friends and have been friends for a long time. But I think there's 2 reasons, A, that he probably wouldn't have gone there. Number one, we know his goal was to be a head coach. And how does that look if you leave Alabama and go to Alabama's biggest rival in their same division in a lateral move? How does that look to ADs and presidents and chancellors? When Coach Saban threw him the olive branch to come to Alabama, bring him there for 3 years. So I know that was certainly in the back of Lane's mind. And listen, the last couple of times he's been with Ed Ogeron, he's been Ed Ogeron's boss. He was at SC, he was at Tennessee, so this would have been flipped. That's sometimes a little bit of a strange dynamic. So I think if he'd have gone somewhere as an offensive coordinator and he didn't get a head job, I think this maybe as good a chance he would go somewhere like UCLA, which is back on the West Coast, back where his kids are, be closer to them. And again, you're not going to the school and you're the rival school in your same division that you got to beat every year. So I never was as far down that road as a lot of people were, that if he didn't get a head coach job, he was just automatically going to LSU.
But you look at the Houston job. Why do you think Houston decided to turn to Major Applewhite instead of Lane Kiffin?
I think Lane was in that right up to the end. I mean, they talked to him twice. I think there was a lot of optimism in his camp that he was going to get it. And right at the very end, I don't know. I mean, we know that Lane still, for a lot of ADs and a lot of administrators, presidents and chancellors, is a little bit toxic because of his past and some of the, let's face it, he's been a little bit of a knucklehead in the past.
Sure.
He's said some dumb things and he's done some dumb things. The guy can coach his rear end off, though. And some academians have a hard time balancing that. What's this guy going to do? Is he going to embarrass us? I think those are questions you got to ask. Now, I think, having been around Lane a bunch over the last 3 years, he has matured. He'll tell you he has. Coach Saban will tell you he has. But I think there's still that question that some presidents and chancellors and ADs have about him is, can he manage the program? Is he ready to step back in and wear all the different hats you got to wear to manage a football program? I think that, at the end of the day, is what scared people away from him. Some people, not the fact that he was going to get, on the sideline that Saturday, every Saturday. I think a lot of people that you talk to that know football will tell you Lane Kiffin's worth a lot of points if he's on your sideline as opposed to the other.
Where does Alabama go from here as far as the offensive coordinator? To me, I think it's a good scenario that Lane is going to stay through the college football playoffs, that Nick Saban doesn't have to rush a decision, doesn't try to get somebody in here to help him prepare for the upcoming. Because there was rumors here in Tuscaloosa, and there were so many different. I mean, this Lane Kiffin chase has been for about 2 weeks. That if he would have got the job, that somewhere, if some of the different jobs he was looking at, if he would have got the job, he would have departed almost immediately.
Well, in my conversations or correspondence with Lane, I don't think that's ever anything he wanted. He always wanted to come back and see this thing through. Because he's got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved too. Sure. In this run that they've had.
Absolutely.
He's a huge part of their 25 straight win. And listen, I know Nick Saban well enough to know he's never going to do anything that's detrimental to Alabama going out and being able to win a football game. And if he thinks something is the best thing for the football team or the program, he's going to do it. Whether this coach is leaving to go here, there, or anywhere. And I can't imagine any scenario where Alabama's better off in this playoff run without Lane as opposed to with him. So I always felt like if he got a job wherever it was. Now, if he came out and announced yesterday he was going to LSU, that might be a conversation. But any head job, I always felt like Lane was going to be there throughout because I know in his heart that's certainly what he wanted to do.
Let me ask you about the replacements. Give me a few names that you think Alabama could sort of be looking at the next OC around.
I don't know. I mean, Sarkisian is probably certainly a guy that you would include in that group. I think there's a reason that Coach Saban brought him there, and he will certainly be, I would think, in that conversation. I don't think he's necessarily the huge favorite or the leader in the clubhouse, because we all know this about Nick Saban. He's going to look around and talk to people, consider all of his options. I mean, think about some of the guys he's brought in recently. Who would have dreamed 3 years ago that Lane Kiffin would be his offensive coordinator?
Nobody.
Had you ever heard of Tim McElwain before he brought him in? And he was out west. So, there's people he's going to bounce things off of. You've heard Mike Loxley there at Alabama. You've heard Sarkisian, Billy Major. There's some people there in-house. It certainly worked out pretty well defensively with Jeremy Pruitt. What he did, he's done with that defense this year. So I think he'll consider options in and outside. Does he take? I think the big question: does he take a look at Art Briles? So that's a name that's going to. There's going to be a lot of gnashing of the teeth. People are going to be saying, he's a guy that you can't touch. I'll tell you this about Nick Saban. Nick Saban's pretty comfortable in his own skin. If he thinks someone's deserving of another chance or a second chance, we've already seen that he will give players and coaches second chances. So I'm not saying he's going to go out and Art Briles is a guy that he definitely is going to bring in. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised or I wouldn't necessarily rule out that he'd be a guy that he will consider along with a bunch of guys around the country. And it's got to be a fit. I mean, Coach Saban is, again, he's comfortable enough in what he does and what he wants in his program to bring in people who will challenge him. We saw he and Kiffin fighting a lot. I think there probably was more fighting behind the scenes than we'll ever know about sort of the offense, the direction of the offense. But there's a part of Coach Saban that likes that because you want people on your staff who are going to challenge you and push you. You broaden your horizons. You continue to change and evolve with the game. And Alabama's done a great job of doing that on both offense and defense. And Ryan, as he makes this hire on offense, I think he will do so with all these things in mind. Where are we best going forward depending on who we bring in as our next offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and that deep breath of fresh, or that when you said Art Briles a couple of minutes ago, I expect a lot of people react to that. And I mean, you could see Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban has been a guy that has offered people a lot of opportunities, like Lane Kiffin, and it worked out. Alabama made 3 appearances to the college football playoffs, or will make 3 appearances. Art Briles' name. And what do you think the nation would say about that if Art Briles made his way to Alabama as the OC? What would be the national reaction?
Well, wherever Art Briles lands, there's going to be a lot of criticism, a lot of scrutiny. You know that. We all know that.
But Nick Saban's one of those guys. I'm not really sure he does care about that. I mean,
no, he doesn't. He doesn't. He cares about the university and the program's reputation. I don't think he cares what someone like me or you or Paul Feinbaum or anybody in the media say that he should or shouldn't do. You know, he's going to do, again, he's going to do what he feels like is best, you know, for the program. And if someone has had some issues or whatever, if he brings him in, I can tell he's going to thoroughly vet him and make sure that it's going to work. And again, I just throw Briles out there as a guy that you know, we know what kind of offensive mind he has. So the things we hear that have happened, some of the allegations we hear at Baylor, I think we all sit up straight and go, golly, that's horrible. So these things are horrible. So I don't know, but I know the reason I throw his name out there is because I know Coach Saban well enough to know that he's going to look across the country, and he's not going to rule out anything. He's going to go talk to people, bounce things off of people, and he's going to do what he feels like is best with this hire for the program looking ahead.
Let me ask you about college football playoffs. We're talking to Chris Lowe right now. Final couple of minutes. He's written an article there at ESPN.com. Lane Kiffin begins his second act as head coach. Is he ready? There, you can read that at ESPN.com. We'll tweet it out, retweet it here in a couple of minutes. But, Chris, let me ask you about Alabama and Washington. Is this no contest? I mean, are we this is Homer Tuscaloosa. We're saying that when we try to make it a game, is this going to be a game with Washington, Alabama, and Atlanta?
Well, no, it can be a game. I mean, listen, Alabama is as dominant as Alabama has been. We've seen some stretches this year where they've been a little bit ragged. They've turned the football over a couple times. They've just been so good defensively. You just can't move the ball on. You can't score points. Washington's going to have to do what they've done a pretty good job of doing, Ryan. That's turn them over. You turn Alabama over and capitalize on Alabama mistakes. And they're going to have to win special teams. Now, Washington is very good in special teams. They got some really dynamic playmakers that have scored some touchdowns in special teams. So I think they're going to have to be better than Alabama in special teams, maybe score on special teams, and certainly win the turnover battle. I mean, Alabama has lost, I think, what's the stat I tweeted out there? They lost like 6 times in their last 73 games, which goes back to the 2011 season. And I don't think it's any coincidence. In those 6 losses, they've lost the turnover battle 18-5. So if you're going to beat Alabama, in most games, you could say that the turnover margin is one of the biggest factors. But for Alabama, I think especially, you've got to beat them in the turnover battle. Hey, the last time they lost, Ryan, the last time Alabama lost a football game was Ole Miss. I was at the game. Alabama lost 5-0 in the turnover battle. I think that's the kind of discrepancy in the turnover ratio it would take. Maybe not 5-0, but certainly +2 or +3 for Washington to have a chance to win this game.